Hey, good evening. Well, I've come over to our 5-year project. That's what I keep calling it. This part of what we are trying to do, we had this dream of setting up an inland uh, resort, so that it would have enough, that the rooms would be big enough that people would be quite happy to be there, that they'd have a balcony which would be on and behind me, and that the view would be pleasant. These rooms would look out onto what eventually will be quite a resort. I'm showing you there, and I come over and I have a look and I remind myself that while it may seem impossible, the chances are that we're going to be able to do it. So in a way, what we are trying to do here is what some of you guys out there are trying to do with your life. Now, I have lots of different guys who write to me. I enjoy writing to people, so if you have something to share, a good story, how your life is going, I'm always very interested to receive letters like that. They're inspirational to me. A letter telling me that Beth or myself have been inspirational for them is inspirational for us. So I'm just walking around now and talking in our big project. Sometimes I wonder how on earth we ever thought that we could do this, but then that's how big projects are done. I was inspired by a story that I read, and I'm sure that the title was Leap and the Net Will Appear. And the idea behind, the concept behind the book was the fact that the guy had in his mind, in his heart, he had the dream of setting up a recording studio. And he set this recording studio out in the wilds, right? So it was isolated. It wasn't a place that was convenient for the city or anything like that. And people had to come and they had to stay there. And so there was a kind of a sanctuary feel about the place. It was quite a few years ago. This is an actual true story of a guy that had this incredible dream that nobody shared with him. Nobody said to him, I think that's a great idea. Everybody said, it's not. They'll never come. Nobody will come. It's too far out. Why would they want to stay at in your rooms? And he had said that what would happen would be that people would be able to stay where his studio was. And it was quite a story, because he started the whole thing on a credit card. Can you imagine this? So he started something like this on a credit card. And once he had it going, he got the plans and all of that, and he went through bank after bank trying to raise the money to do and create and produce his dream. So the short story is, he was turned down by everybody, which is, it's a common story. It's a common story that somebody has an idea that they think will be great, if only they can get the backing, if only they can get people to agree what their vision is. So he kept trying and trying, and he would raise a little bit more money, and then he would get a little bit further. And in many ways, that's what we're doing here, what our friend Dean called a back pocket. It's a back pocket project. In other words, the money you have in your back pocket is the money that you can spend on getting your dream into action, to be a reality. And that's what that's what we've been doing. So on the outside it may look as, as if we're worth a bundle of money. But in actual fact, what we have done is based on our work that we've done so far. Now, did it seem real when we started? Well, obviously we thought, the idea seemed great to us. An inland resort where people could come. We'd make the rooms and everything would be far bigger than, I'm putting the key in the lock now to lock up. There we go. The rooms would be much nicer. They would be big enough for families to be able to come and not live on top of each other. There would be outside places that they could come, sit and play, and the children would not be sitting on top of them. And we had this vision of a place that would be lovely to come to. And there'll be swimming pools. There'll be a swimming pool out the back there from me at the bottom of this corridor. And there will be things to do. And because there's a swimming pool and places that you can hang out, and it's beautiful weather most of the time, we hope that it will be a good thing. Is it guaranteed? No, it's not guaranteed. In fact, it very much is not guaranteed. We do what we can with what we have, which is, for those of you who have been following us through the years, you'll know that that's our motto. We can't always get everything done, but we do what we can with what we have. And that's how we've operated, and that's how we have this place here. So we are virtually without any debt at all. So the building, the property, the land is paid for. But of course, we get hit, as we have been very recently, we get hit with crippling bills from time to time. And those crippling bills, well, what do? They cripple. And we often find ourselves eating very modest meals, which I've just explained on another video. But then we're used to that, and that's why we have what we have, is because we took risks. And I was listening to one man who'd made millions he was on YouTube. It may have been Kiyosaki, that's the name that comes to mind, but he believes in doing everything that he does on other people's money. So he goes into debt, so he borrows money in order to be able to do whatever project that he has. And we don't do that. We prefer to save, go without, live modestly, and be able to pay for things. Right? That's how we got our truck. A lot of people said, oh, how could you possibly afford that? Well, we've been working for 10 years, and we've been working pretty well 24/7 for 10 years. That's why, in a way, the lull in the economy right now, which has affected our charity drastically. We did have one main supporter, because it was coming from his foundation and his foundation profits, from which we received our little, not little to us, it was a lot to us, but the money that he was able to give to us in donations was a regular thing, and it enabled us to do what we have been doing. So that sort of went into the toilet, so to speak, and he could no longer support us in that way. So that's meant that we're doing a lot of calling, asking people, angels we call them, who are able to send something that they probably can't easily afford, but they're touched by the stories that we put up. So it's not getting away from the subject, but the fact is that sometimes you have to take risks, and if you don't take a risk, then you are doomed to a life of absolute boredom in my mind. But that's how I look at it, and I know very well that the way that we live is not the way that everybody can live. We know people who despair because they're very strict on their budget. Everything is totally organized and they live without any problems. They may have a small problem, but they're never without, because they've carefully organized their life, and that's their life, and that's great for them. And we haven't done that. So, as I said a little while ago at the beginning of the tape, the way that we are progressing and working now is a lot like the people that write to me and tell me what they are trying to do in order to come out here. My message to them is, you will never be ready. You will never be ready. Now, as I've said, I know that the way that we do things is not for everybody, but it's one way, and that's what we've done. And what you can see behind me is what it has brought us. So we've achieved a lot, but for those who are on a very strict budget and budget-minded will be in despair at the idea that we don't have the money to go on further. But it will come. One maxim I remember from one study that I made was that income is generated by necessity. See, if you have no need to earn a given amount of money, then you will not earn it. If you create a need, then you will earn it. When I went out to Australia, and I spent about 6 months in Australia, and I worked for a company called Brian Burt Ford. Wasn't really supposed to, but I told them my situation, and I worked there. And one of the things that they told me was that as soon as they got someone who was promising, and that they thought that they were going to be able to benefit from, and to give a benefit to a young salesman, they would encourage him to buy a car, buy a house. They would encourage him to get into a situation where his need for income was greater than what he was actually doing right now, and that if they increased his need, then they would increase his productivity. So productivity increased along with the need for greater income. And so, even though we sometimes worry how on earth it's all going to end up, we can look out, and this is why I take a walk around now and I look at what we've done, and I wonder if it really was us that did it. And it reaffirms in my mind that you need to take risks in order to get anywhere. And if you haven't made any mistakes, the common quote is, if you haven't made any mistakes, you haven't tried anything. So, for people who are thinking of coming out here, I'm not suggesting that it's the greatest place in the world, but it's become my home. So to me, I think of it as a great place. Now, for those of you who share that view and dream of coming out here, let me tell you, when I decided that I was going to come here, I had no idea that I was going to come and make this kind of life that I have now, that I would marry, that I'd marry a much younger woman than I ever dreamed of marrying, because of my age. And all of that came because I put one foot in front of the other. What's the other little fun thing? How do you eat an elephant? One mouthful at a time. How do you walk to China? One step ahead. it's once you have started, then you have to continue. And sometimes committing yourself to actually start is what you need to do. Now, I have other friends who are totally good on budget, and they have health issues. Sometimes their wife will have health issues, and they know that they have to have certain requirements. One really good friend, his wife must be near an excellent medical care unit, a good hospital with top specialists, and that's a need for them. That's what they need for them. Now, knowing that need, establishing it, and saying that they want to come, she is Filipino, now they have the necessity created, and they will meet that. That's why sometimes you have to write down your goal. You have to say that your goal is this. Now people said, how could you possibly raise the money for that? Well, that's not my initial problem, is raising money. It's not my initial problem. My initial problem is quite smaller. First of all, we had to look for a property, and we looked for a property because this property that we bought was for sale, and our friend Alfred turned it down because it wasn't just everything just ordinary and organized, and this person was there when he needed to have it signed, and just everything all in order, and it wasn't. And he was asked to take something on trust. No. Well, we came in a lot later and it was still for sale, so we came in and we bought it. So paid a lot more than Alfred could have bought it for, but anyway, it was still an opportunity that fitted our needs. Now, where do we go from there? Well, we put the footings in and we started the building, and then we raised, the money came. The money came, and we were able to pay our way. We don't have people working right now because we don't have the funds to be able to do that. So we're waiting. Now, we're not just sitting around waiting, we're working now. We're working more on our website, our channel, I should say. And we're working more on that. And that's keeping us busy. And we will generate the money that's needed. How will we do it? They say that when you actually put out a prayer that this is what you want, and you're asking the universe, or God, or the Lord, however you view the greater part of yourself, you must say what it is that you hope to get. Now, for me, I always put a proviso on a prayer saying, if it is for the best of everyone, then can I be successful in this? And that has always worked very well for me. Also, Beth and I, before we ever bought this place, we agreed that we would only enter into projects which were in the best interests of more than just ourselves. So we see this resort behind me, we see this as a place where we could give jobs and employ people, and that they could put food on the table with our work force, what we always called our Superman team. With those guys, we wanted to be able to keep them employed so that they could put food on the table for their families, and that was our perhaps our greater mission, or the greater part of our mission, so that it wasn't just us that benefited, it was other people, and we always found that really worked. So back to how our situation applies to people who hope to come here. When I first came here, when I first planned on coming here, I said, I want to go tomorrow. Now I can't do that because I had a car to sell. I had different stuff that had to be done and got rid of, and try to raise some money selling my stuff. And I said, well, it would be great if I could go in a month. And then I looked at it, I said, I'll never be able to get everything together in a month. So I decided that I would aim for 2 months, that I would go in 2 months. And I committed to that, and I bought a ticket. And the ticket was for 2 months' time. And then I sat around and I procrastinated, and I did other things that I didn't need to do, and I wasted time for a month. And then in the 1 month, I damn well had to get everything and pull it all together and do it. And that's what I did. So it taught me that I could have said I want to go in a month, and I'm going in a month. You need to leap and expect, have faith that the bridge will appear. And that's what we've been doing here, and that's what we've always done. So if you're out there and you're thinking, I'm alone, I don't have anybody that cares whether I'm here, maybe I don't have enough money, maybe my pension isn't enough, maybe this, maybe that, maybe, sit back on your ass, it will never happen. You have to say that I'm going to do the research that I have to, I'm not going to overdo it, I'm not going to overthink it, and I'm damn well going to go there, and I'm going to do what needs to be done, and I'm going to try. And if you fail, so what? When I came out, I failed over and over at first. I got ripped off, I met the wrong people, I did the wrong things, I spent money, and then I just kept going. You just keep going. But you'll be here, and for me, you'll be alive. And you won't be there. For the last 2 years before I came out here, I think it was 2 years, I didn't know anybody beyond a wave in the street that I lived. Nobody. If I saw someone, I wouldn't know who they were, getting in their car, walking from their car to the house, or their house to the car, and I wouldn't know their name. I would know, probably vaguely, I'd know their face, and I would wave. And that was it. What? How easy, how hard was it for me to walk away from that? I didn't walk, I ran. And if you want to do it, you can do the same. You know, I started building my own house here next to Nana's house when Beth and I were married, and against everybody's. People actually laughed at I was a joke. He's going to build his own house single-handed, and I built it out of metal stud. Who the hell's heard of metal stud? Even the one neighbour who was an American, who was that kind of person that thought he knew everything. I said, I'm going to build my own house. He says, oh really? Who's going to help you? I said, I'm going to build it myself. I'm going to build it out of metal stud. He said, oh, well, good luck with that. So, get ready to be laughed at. Get ready to have people tell you you're not going to make it. Get ready for that, because they'll be lining up. Never put yourself down. People will line up to do it for you for nothing. Get up and do it. Get up and do it. There's a whole life out here just waiting for you to take a part in it. Don't forget to like, comment. If this is a help, comment, say thanks or hello. Put a like onto the video, because it will help us to do what we are doing, which is to give messages, sometimes just messages of hope, for people who otherwise might think that they can't make it. It helps. Bye for now.